Hello, it is Good Friday, April the 3rd, 2026, and it's time for the weekly word. And the weekly word is response. So, this last week, I've been reading about all the events leading up to Jesus's crucifixion and resurrection in the different gospel accounts. And I have found the responses of two politicians, two criminals, and two disciples to be particularly interesting. Our key scripture is Matthew 27:22. Pilate said to them, "Then what shall I do with Jesus, who is called Christ?" So the definition of a response is a reaction. It's what we do because of something that's happened. It can be our words, it can be our actions, it can be our attitudes. Even silence or no response is a response. A well-known speaker in the United States, Chuck Swindoll, said, "Life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it." Well, we can't control what happens to us in this life, but we can control our attitudes and our response. And how we respond is the answer to the question, what shall I do with Jesus? The entire story of the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, it's an account of how people responded to Jesus and how he responded to them, especially in the events directly leading up to Jesus' death and resurrection. Scripture is careful to record some specific responses. And they're more than just a history lesson, they're a challenge to us on how are we responding to Jesus today in our own lives. So the two politicians, Pilate and Herod. Pilate, he was the Roman governor over Jerusalem and Judea, who's best known for presiding over the trial of Jesus 3 times. And it's recorded both in Luke's gospel and John's gospel. He said, "I find no fault in him. I have no basis for your charges. He's done nothing worthy of death." But yet, Pilate ended up giving in to outside pressure, political correctness. He did what was easiest in the moment, even though his wife was warned in a dream and warned him not to. John 19:12. From then on, Pilate tried to set Jesus free, but the Jewish leaders kept shouting, "If you let this man go, you are no friend of Caesar. Anyone who claims to be a king opposes Caesar." So what happened? So Pilate goes down in history as the man who officially authorized the death of Jesus. Pilate's response to Jesus was that he knew that what he was doing was wrong, but he did it anyways because of outside pressure. He really should have listened to his wife on this one. You know, it's real easy for me to see this in Pilate's life. It's real easy for us to see it looking back. But I think all of us at one point or another have known that something wasn't right, but just did it anyways. Herod, it's the other politician. He just happened to be in Jerusalem at this time. And Pilate tried to shift the decision off to him on a technicality because Jesus was from Galilee, which was Herod's jurisdiction. Luke 23 and verse 8 tells us Herod's response. When Herod saw Jesus, he was very glad, for he had long desired to see him because he had heard about him. Sounds great so far. But it goes on and says, and he was hoping to see some sign done by him. By sign, the scripture means miracle. Herod just wanted a miracle. He just wanted a magic show. He just wanted to be entertained. And when Jesus didn't put on a performance like Herod wanted him to, Herod made his own entertainment by dressing Jesus up in a purple robe with a crown of thorns and mocking him and having soldiers beat him. It's this same Herod who had already beheaded John the Baptist over another incident involving entertainment. Herod's response to Jesus was that he was very glad to see him as long as it provided entertainment. And when it didn't turn out the way he expected it, he made it into entertainment of his own. On to the two criminals. Two different responses. Luke 23:39. One of the criminals who were hanged railed at him, saying, "Are you not the Christ? Save yourself and us." So his response was to rail at Jesus. That means to blaspheme or vilify. And then he went on to demand something of Jesus. Scripture keeps going, but the other criminal rebuked him. "Don't you fear God," he said, "since you are under the same sentence. We are punished justly, for we are getting what our deeds deserve. But this man has done nothing wrong." Then he said, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." Jesus answered him, "Truly, I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise." Wow, there's a whole message just in these few verses, but one criminal responded with blasphemy and with demands. The other criminal responds with honestly acknowledging his sin. And this second criminal provides a powerful example that it's never too late to respond to God. Last two are the two disciples. These two disciples both failed, but it was their response after failure that would determine how they went down in history. Remember our quote, life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. Judas betrayed Jesus, but no, just one time. Peter denied Jesus 3 times. Judas responded to failure by giving up, and Peter responded to terrible failure by not giving up. That to me is the simplest and the best way to describe it. Just giving up or not giving up. And those are choices that each of us have every day. These responses made all the difference. For Judas, this is pretty much where his story ended. And for Peter, it was a reset that led him to a whole new level of fruitfulness and a learning lesson that made him a better leader. So again, this isn't just a history lesson. What will we do with Jesus, who is called Christ? What is our response? In this season, it's easy to remember all these amazing stories and not allow the lessons to penetrate our heart and apply them to our life today. It's easy for it to unknowingly become just entertainment. But the hope of the gospel is that Jesus did rise from the dead. His crucifixion was not the end of the story. Peter's failure was not the end of his story. The criminal who responded to Jesus ended up in paradise. My prayer for each of us is that this season will be an encouragement to us to just keep going. That our words, our actions, and our attitudes are really responses of faith, that we daily in all of our lives' challenges just keep responding with yes to Jesus. God bless you. Have a wonderful week.